All right, if you're building an e-bike, you know exactly what this is. You open the box for your new motor controller and you're staring at this absolute explosion of wires. It looks like a bowl of spaghetti and it can be super intimidating. But I promise you, we are going to make sense of all of it right now. Because here's the thing, that tangle of wires, it isn't really a mess. It's a map. It's a map to unlocking power, adding cool features, and getting total control over your ride. Today, we're going to learn how to read that map, wire by wire, so you can tackle this whole project with, total confidence.
So first up, what exactly is this thing? Well, the easiest way to think about the controller is that it's your e-bike's brain. It takes all that raw power from the battery, you can think of that as the heart, and it intelligently tells the motor, which are the muscles, exactly what to do. Every time you twist the throttle, it's the brain making it all happen smoothly.
Now, more wires usually mean more functions, but here's the secret. You don't need all of them just to get going. So let's start with the absolute essentials, the core connections we need just to get your motor spinning. This is the first big win. Okay, so let's dive in. For basic operation, there are really just 4 groups of wires that we need to connect. First, the big motor phase wires. Second, those little Hall sensor wires. Third, the main power supply from your battery. And finally, the throttle wires. We're just going to knock these out one by one. And the best part is, manufacturers make this incredibly easy. It's basically a color-matching game. For those 3 thick motor phase wires, it's literally green to green, blue to blue, yellow to yellow. Simple. Same thing for the 5 thin Hall sensor wires. Just match the colors exactly. Power, that's the 2 thickest wires. Red for positive, black for negative. Can't miss them. And the throttle, you'll see a red, a black, and then a green or white wire for the signal. Just match the colors, and you are honestly 90% of the way there. So you might be wondering, what are those little Hall sensor wires even for? Well, let me tell you, they are absolutely critical. They're like the controller's eyes. They tell the controller the exact rotational position of the motor. Without that info, the controller is flying blind and can't apply power correctly from a standstill. That's what causes that awful stuttering. Connecting these is the key to a perfectly smooth takeoff from zero. Okay, now let's talk about a wire that trips up so many people. It's usually this single, thin red wire, kind of on its own. This is your ignition, your on switch. The controller will not power on at all until this little wire gets the full battery voltage. You've got 2 choices. You can just permanently connect it to the thick red power wire, or for a much cleaner setup, you can run it to a key switch or a button on your handlebars. All right, so if you've got those essentials wired up, your bike will run. Pretty cool, right? But what about all those other wires? Well, this is where the fun really begins. This is how you customize your ride and add all the cool bells and whistles. Think of this table as your cheat sheet for all the extras. You've got wires for a 3-speed switch. You've got brake sensors that automatically cut the motor power, which is a great safety feature. You can even add a reverse function, cruise control, and an anti-theft system. Each one is just a simple connector you can hook up to add that feature to your bike. Of course, sometimes things don't work perfectly on the first try. It happens. But do not panic. Seriously. The 2 most common problems you're going to run into have surprisingly simple fixes, so let's just tackle them head on. Okay, problem number 1. Your motor just jitters and stutters and won't spin smoothly. It's almost always the phase wires. Even if you match the colors, some motors are just wired differently. So you just start swapping the green, blue, and yellow wires around. There are only 6 possible ways to connect them, and I promise one of them is the magic combination. Now, what if it spins perfectly but backwards? Look for 2 wires, usually they're white, called learning wires. Just connect them together for a second while the power is on. The motor will reverse direction, then just unplug them, and you're done. The controller actually remembers the right way. So now that the hardware is all sorted out, it's time to dive into the software. A lot of modern controllers come with a display that lets you get into a hidden menu of settings. They're usually called P settings, and this is where you can really fine-tune your bike's performance. Getting into this menu is usually super simple. With the display turned on, you just press and hold the up and down arrow buttons or the plus and minus buttons at the same time. Hold them for a couple of seconds and boom, you're in. This unlocks a whole new level of customization.
So inside, you'll find a list of settings. Now, the exact numbers can be different between controllers, but these are the big ones you want to look for. PO2 lets you switch between miles per hour and kilometers per hour. PO3 is critical. You have to set this to match your battery's voltage, whether it's 36 or 48 volts. PO6 is where you put in your wheel size, so your speedometer is actually accurate. And then there's the big one, PO8.
PO8 is the master speed limit. This is so often set to a really low number right out of the box for legal reasons, but you can usually adjust it all the way up to 100. This single setting, right here, is often the key to unlocking the true, full top speed of your entire e-bike setup. Set that thing to 100, and you've just removed any speed restrictions from the controller.
So what's the big takeaway from all this? Well, that crazy, intimidating bundle of wires, it's a system. And by understanding the core connections, all the optional features, and the hidden software settings, you go from just being a user to being a builder. You now have complete control over your e-bike sped hour, its features, its whole personality. So that intimidating mess of wires is now a map to your perfect custom e-bike. The only question left is, now that you can read it, what are you going to build? Thanks for joining me.